Hey friends, it's Judy Clock here, your independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator coming to you from Middletown, Virginia. And today I wanted to celebrate a few of our celebration items. So let's switch screens and let me show you. So today we're going to work with 4 different celebration items. So the first one, this is a level 2, and this is free with a $100 purchase. This is the Softly Sophisticated Stamp Set and Embossing Folder. And it's so pretty. It's going to give you that nice little, almost like dot effect, okay, on your embossed paper. Then we're going to also add in the Softly Stippled Designer Series paper. And I love this paper. I put together some color combos yesterday based upon this paper that honestly I wouldn't have thought of, but I really like, excuse me, the way they look. So the colors included in this are Calypso Coral, Lost Lagoon, Pebbled Path, Pool Party, and Wild Wheat. Now, Pebbled Path and Wild Wheat have not been among my favorites. I haven't used them very often because I really couldn't find something that I thought they paired well with. But I do like the combo of Wild Wheat and Lost Lagoon, and you'll see that in a minute. Just want to show you this paper. So one side is printed, one side is solid, or with a little bit of like tone on tone design. And again, this is free with a $50 purchase from now through the end of February when Sale-a-bration ends. Sale-a-bration is a great time to stock up on your basics like your white cardstock and your envelopes and adhesives, because you're going to buy stuff you would need anyway, and you can get freebies for it. So this is just the paper that you can get softly stippled. It's again free with a $50 purchase. And the last thing we're going to use are the opaque faceted gems. This is another free with $50 purchase. They are Pool Party, Pecan Pie, and Calypso Coral are the colors that are included in this, in this pack. All right, let's take a look at the cards we're going to work on today. And again, it's a fun fold, but it's a pretty easy fun fold. So I think really any beginner could do this, right? All we're going to do is kind of slice off that piece, and the rest is just folding and adhering. So there's not a lot. And then this is stepped up only because we introduce the use of that embossing folder and the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. But how pretty is that? So we're going to stamp on our Coral Calypso cardstock, and then we're going to emboss it. So I don't know how many of you people have ever thought, I forgot to put my inside in, have thought to do that. But that is one way to do it, is to stamp on the paper and then emboss it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's work on our first card, what I'm calling my simple stamping card. And I've started out with a base of Lost Lagoon. It is 8.5 by 5.5. I've scored it at 4 1/4. I have a piece of our Designer Series paper that is 5 1/4 by 4. I have another piece of our Designer Series paper. This was 5 1/4 by 4. I cut it on the diagonal, so I used one piece for my demonstration card, my sample card, and then I used this piece we're going to use on this card. So we're good. So we've got that cut already. I've got a piece of our Wild Wheat that was 8.5 by 3. I've scored that at 4 1/4, and that's going to become kind of like our inset piece. I've got another piece of Lost Lagoon that's 4 by 2 3/4. A piece of basic white that is 2.5 by 3 3/4. And then another piece of basic white that is 4 by 2 3/4. That's going to go inside this piece of Wild Wheat. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we need to slice off on the front of this card. We need to slice off part of that front. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we put it in, the fold is at the top, because you want to make sure that you slice from the fold down to that bottom right corner. So you're going to put kind of where the fold is, that fold line right in your cutting track, and then you're going to put your other point. Let me move this up so you can see a little bit. So we're going to put that fold line right in our cutting track, and we're going to put this lower point, a lower right point right on our cutting track. And sometimes it takes a little bit of maneuvering just to make sure you got it right. But when you think you have it, just close it and slice. Okay. And this piece we can just use for another card. We're going to put that off to the side. Now we are ready to go. So let me move that trimmer out of the way. Let me pull in my Stampin' Pierce mat. These are photopolymers. So I am using my Stampin' Pierce mat. I'm going to put a piece of scrap paper on there. So I want to stamp a couple of things. So on the inside piece of this, I'm going to take the leaves. It's the larger group of leaves, like the fatter one, not the long skinny one, the shorter, fatter one. And there's this little group of 3 that's kind of off on the right up here. I want to ink those up with Lost Lagoon. Okay, so I'm just going to put that little portion. I don't want the whole thing yet. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to put just those 3 little ones up there, and I'm going to just kind of stamp those in opposite corners on my inside piece. Okay, get that a little bit inkier. Okay. All right, so now that's all I'm going to do for the inside. Now I'm going to take this piece here, this other piece of base, quite the smaller piece, and I'm going to stamp my flowers right about there, my leaves right about there. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp the hello there. Where did I put that? There it is. Again, I'm going to stamp the hello there in our Lost Lagoon, just kind of right up at the top. Right, and that is it for our Lost Lagoon ink. Let's close that up. And then we're going to stamp the flowers in our Wild Wheat. Now you can do one of 2 things. You can stamp these full strength, or you can stamp these, you can stamp off and then stamp them so the Wild Wheat is a bit lighter. That is your choice. So you'll notice that there are 2, like a larger flower and a smaller flower and like a little bud. So when you turn it over, you can see the little bud will be on the left, and that little bud is going to come right over here with this little opening in the leaf, and then the other 2 are going to sit in between these 2. Just so you know how to set this up. Okay, let me just see. Amp it up just a bit. Okay, and then I want to make sure that looks pretty good to me. Okay. So, okay, so not too bad. So that is all the stamping that we're going to do. So let me move that out of the way for now. All right, let's start assembling our card. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this lovely piece of designer series paper. We're going to put this on the inside. And again, you can choose. I just refilled my Stampin' Seal, and it doesn't want to get started. There we go. We're going to put this on the inside of our card base. Okay, so that's the inside. We're going to take our little triangular piece, and that's going to go on the front. Okay, so again, this is we're just getting this on, and then we're going to put this on the front. Okay, just get it on there as best you can. Okay, a little crooked, but that's all right. Now we're going to adhere this piece to the inside of our Wild Wheat. Okay, that's going to go on the inside. Okay, knocking over all my stamps. I have all my stamps on blocks already, so they're stacked and ready to go. All right, so now we've got that. Now, before we adhere this, let's adhere this piece to our other piece of Lost Lagoon. All right. I want to make sure I try to remember to stay in the frame. Sometimes I don't, and I apologize for that. All All right. Now I'm going to take a piece of our wild wheat ribbon, and I'm just going to wrap it around the bottom of our card, and we're going to secure it in the back with some adhesive. So I'm just going to cut a piece. It's probably maybe 4 inches, 4.5 inches. I don't really measure it exactly. I just kind of figure out how much I need and just cut it. But if you want to know exactly, I would say at least 4 inches, because this is 2 3/4. And then we're just going to wrap this around and secure the ends in back. Okay. It's a little crooked. Let me see if I can fix that just a bit. You can hear everybody walking around upstairs. I think it's time to take the pups out. So Jim will be doing that. And I am filming this early because it is trivia night at the Elks, and we are headed up there this evening to go play some trivia. We go with another couple, and we call ourselves, you have to have a team name. So we call ourselves the DJs because it's Jim, Judy, Jim, and Donna. So we're the DJs. All right, we're going to go ahead and add this to the front of our wild wheat. And then we're going to now secure this to the inside. So let's go ahead and add this. Now, don't worry, I will put up a corresponding blog post by the end of the weekend with all the measurements. So you don't have to worry about writing everything down, but it's our standard card base. This piece of wild wheat is 3 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So now that comes over, that comes over. And then if you want, we can take some of these lovely, that fell off, some of these lovely gems, and we can add some. We're going to add our pool party ones because that seems to match the colors in this card. We're just going to we'll put one up there. Maybe we'll put, oops, sometimes it wants to get picked up and sometimes it doesn't. And we'll put another big one down there. We'll put a big one maybe, I don't know, over here. And that is our first card, but I really, really like the way the wild wheat and the Lost Lagoon look together. So what happened? What happened to this? Why did I lose this? Ay, ay, ay. Okay, I don't know why that happened. I apologize. For some reason, my camera went off. If you missed it, I don't want to go back and redo everything, but basically we just put our card together and I said the wild wheat was 8.5 by 3, scored at 4 1/4. And we just cut this piece on the diagonal from the fold down to the bottom right corner on our paper trimmer. And that is our first card, but I am really liking the way the wild wheat and the Lost Lagoon look together. I think it's very pretty. All right, let's go on to our second card. I mean, it's not really stepped up. There's really nothing that hard about it, but we are going to emboss this piece of paper, right? So I'm going to stamp in our pebbled path. I want to stamp "You Are in My Thoughts." I'm going to kind of stamp it down here in the lower right corner. All right, just like that. And then now we want to emboss this using that softly sophisticated embossing folder. So let me move that out of the way for now. Now, when you're using this, somebody asked the question the other day, you want to have the Stampin' Up logo facing up. Okay, we're just going to put our paper in there. Okay, close that down. Now we're going to bring in our Stampin' Cut and Emboss. And we are going to use, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to get the whole thing in screen, but we're going to use our white platform and sheet number 4, plate number 4, because this is a 3D embossing folder. And when you do it, you want to make sure that the folded edge goes in first. Okay, so I'm putting down the folded edge. I need to move it just a little bit so I can turn it. And here it comes. All right, let's move this. So you'll see, so the hinge went in first. The hinge piece went in first. Now I can take this out, and now we've got that lovely embossed look on there, and we've already stamped on there. So we are pretty good to go. Let's go ahead. We're going to stamp one more thing, but I do need my modern oval punch for that. I forgot to bring that over. That's over here on my other table. I have a couple of tables down here in my studio. Okay, we're going to punch out an oval out of basic white. Right, bringing in my Stampin' Pierce mat again. All right, so now I'm going to stamp those long skinny leaves that we looked at before. And we're going to stamp this in Old Olive. Okay, and they're right here. Okay, and I'm going to stamp these so that they're really kind of down towards the bottom, because we want to make sure that we have enough room to add our flowers in Calypso Coral. Okay, we've got our flowers here in Calypso Coral. But isn't this a pretty set? It's very delicate. I like it. And again, these flowers kind of fit within these openings. So this little bud over here on the left, you can see that kind of goes here. This little bud up here on the top kind of goes there. So if you just kind of use those as a guide, you'll be able to match it up pretty well. I wasn't even anywhere close. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to take a chance. Okay, so I lined that up pretty well, considering that I really couldn't see all that well. And now I'm just going to take a sponge dauber, and I'm going to take our pebbled path, and I'm going to add just a little bit of color to the edge of the oval. And I was going to say, once again, that little mischievous gremlin that lives in my studio and just moves stuff all the time. Who has a gremlin in their studio that just moves your stuff without, like, that you just had, and they just move it? I have one that is here, and they move stuff all the time. Things that I literally had my hands on 2 seconds ago seem to just disappear when that gremlin is near. I think we all have one of those. And it's not just in my craft room, it's everywhere. You know, you're in the kitchen, you just had an ingredient for whatever you're making, and all of a sudden it's not where you thought it was. It got moved. All right, so we've just done a little bit of pebbled path on the edge of our oval. So now we're ready to put our card together. And again, these are not really, neither one of these are difficult. I like to do cards that are fairly easy to do, but are still pretty. I am just sort of, I just kind of think that sometimes simple can be really pretty. You know, just add a fun fold, add some embellishments, add 1 or 2 punches or die cuts. I don't really go for like over the top, crazy, busy cards. That's just a personal preference. You know, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it, add whatever you want. Because I've embossed this, I am going to add some liquid glue, because I find that my Stampin' Seal usually kind of rips the cardstock when it's been embossed. So when I have an embossed piece, I just like to use the liquid glue. I don't use it often because I am very messy with it. But for something like this, I will. And it's great, you know, if you're just starting out and you're not sure, because you do have a little extra time with the liquid glue to kind of move stuff around if it's not exactly where you want it. But I must have had a ink on my finger because I got ink there. Oh, well, here we go. Now we're going to take this piece of the Softly Stippled Designer Series paper. And this is 1.5 inches by 5 1/4. So it's going to go top to bottom, and we can pretty much place it to cover up that little inky bobble. Okay, there we go. Now I want to add some ribbon to the back of this piece. So I'm going to add some Stampin' Seal. Okay, and again, I'm going to take my ribbon. And I always seem to mess this up. So I'm going to actually lay it down first. I'm going to lay it down in like a zigzag pattern. I don't want very much to overlap. So I'm just going to kind of do it like that. Okay, and then I can trim it. Okay, I'm just going to trim it on the diagonal. You know, I like to cut my stuff on the diagonal. And then we're going to add some dimensionals. And I think I only have mini dimensionals. So I think I'm going to use some edge pieces because this is really too big for small dimensionals. So I'm going to just use the edge pieces. And I'm going to use, I think, 3. Okay, now this one's going to be a little bit tricky because it's going to be on the ribbon. I'm going to try to get some of it to stick on the cardstock. All right, so now we're ready to put this on. And again, this can go wherever you want. I'm just going to kind of put it like maybe top center. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to add some of those Calypso coral jewels. I keep pulling that out and they keep sliding off. Here we go. I'm going to add some of our Calypso coral jewels. So again, all of these cards today were made with free Sale-a-bration items. We had our faceted opaque jewels or gems. We had our softly stippled designer series paper, and we had our softly sophisticated stamp set and embossing folder. And we used some really, what I think are really pretty combinations of color combinations. We have our Calypso Coral and Pebbled Path, which again, I think work really well together. And then we have our Lost Lagoon and Wild Wheat. And I really do like these two color combinations together. So I hope you'll give these combinations a try. I hope that if you decide to place an order, I'll leave a link below for you. But if you do place an order of $50 or more, consider getting some of these supplies that are just so pretty. That's it for me. You all have a great evening. I will see you here next week. Happy stamping, everyone. Bye.